HowExpert Top 10 Domestic Violence Survival Tips and Lessons. Domestic violence is a subject that can make people uncomfortable, but it's important to join the conversation. The effects of domestic violence are devastating. Here are 10 things you need to know about domestic violence and how to prevent it. Number 10. Domestic violence in America is sadly incredibly common. According to data from the CDC, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience interpartner violence in their lifetime, and 1 in 7 children were victims of child abuse or neglect in the past year. Number 9. Domestic abuse is not a new phenomenon. In fact, the phrase rule of thumb stems from an Old English law that said a man can beat his wife or child with a branch or stick that is no bigger than the width of their thumb. Domestic violence goes back much further than that, though. One of the first known written laws about domestic violence goes all the way back to 1755 BC in ancient Babylon. King Hammurabi's code includes the right for a man to drown his wife for spending too much money. Number 8. Domestic violence is a worldwide phenomenon. Different cultures use violence in different ways. In China, it was a common practice to bind the feet of little girls to prevent the feet from growing properly. It was considered both a status symbol and beauty to have dainty feet. The actual result of this practice was, in fact, a way to isolate women and keep them close to home. The foot binding caused the foot not to grow. As girls aged into adulthood, the foot remained too teeny to carry the weight of a full-grown adult. Women who had their feet bound were simply unable to walk more than a short distance. This practice was outlawed in China about 100 years ago, but other cultures have other ways of controlling women. In some African countries, it's common practice to remove the clitoris of females. This is to ensure that a woman will not cheat on her husband. In some Muslim countries, it's permissible to throw acid in the face of an unruly woman. And if the woman commits a very dishonorable crime, the family can commit an honor killing. All cultures, all regions, all over the globe commit domestic violence. A domestic call is the most dangerous call that law enforcement can attend. There are several factors that cause this. A domestic violence call is often a residence, and the police officer that arrives does not know the layout of the home, the layout of the land, so to speak. The officer does not know if there are weapons on the premises. Often there are other bystanders, including children, that can complicate the situation, and the situation can escalate quickly. Number 6. According to the CDC, children who experience abuse or are witnesses to violence are at greater risk of health problems including heart disease, diabetes, and even early death. To learn more about adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, check out these websites: www.cdc.gov/violence prevention/child abuse and neglect/fastfact.html, and How Child Trauma Affects Health Across a Lifetime by Natalie Burke Harris. Number 5. Domestic violence is costly. According to Forbes magazine, the cost of domestic violence, including medical cost, lost work productivity, law enforcement, and court procedures, can add up. The United States spends $8.3 billion annually to cover these costs. Worldwide, the sum is $4.4 trillion. Number 4. Red flags. Abusers generally don't abuse their victims on the first date, or there would never be a second date. Most abusers groom their victims. Here are some red flags that your partner might be abusive. Number 1, they want the relationship to move quickly. Number 2, they're overly jealous and begin to isolate you from your friends and family. Number 3, they treat waiters and other people in the service industry without respect or dignity. Number 4, they live in a world where nothing is their fault, no accountability, and that the world is out to get them. They often have trouble with their boss at work or other people in authority. Number 5. On the other hand, some abusers are very charming to the outside world, and no one knows what is going on behind closed doors. These abusers can entice fear in their victims with just a look. Outsiders won't even notice the look, but the victim will know that later that night there will be trouble. Number 3. Leaving a violent relationship is usually the most dangerous time. When an abuser starts to feel like they are losing control of their victim, that's when they become extremely dangerous. This is the time when most murder and suicides happen. Number 2, if someone you know is in an abusive relationship, be patient. It often takes a victim more than 7 attempts to finally break free from the relationship. Remember, abusers often control the money, use fear and intimidation tactics, threaten to take away the children, harm pets, and are master manipulators. Another thing to keep in mind is that abusers are not violent all the time. After an abusive episode, there will oftentimes be a honeymoon phase. They may buy gifts or do other acts of kindness to show how truly sorry they are, and then things begin to escalate and the cycle begins again. Number 1, if you or someone you know is ready to break free from an abuser, here are some safety planning ideas. 1, get a protective order. 2, tell your coworkers, your neighbors, your friends, and family. Break the silence. Abuse grows silently in the shadows. Number 3, find a support group. Emotional support is very important. Number 4, remember that you are brave enough and smart enough to survive during the abuse. Your wits will help you now. The National Domestic Violence Hotline number is 1-800-799-7233. This number is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is available in over 200 languages with interpretive services. Or you can text START to 88788. Call or text this number if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence. It could save a life. If you liked our video, be sure to like and subscribe for more HowExpert Top 10 videos for all topics from A to Z in the future. Also, let us know what other topics you'd like us to do a HowExpert Top 10 video in the future in the comments below. Thank you. Have an amazing day and take care. HowExpert publishes how-to quick guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more.